So, hello everyone, and hello Leticia. Welcome to
Hello.
the webinar.
Thank
My
you.
name is Gabor Sabu, and with me is Leticia Naranjo, and we are going to talk about job search in high tech and the point of view of recruiters, especially. In this webinar, the visitors, the attendees, you can't, as an attendee, you can't speak or share your video, but there is the chat, and in the chat you can actually write to us. I have to figure out where the chat is. Okay, I open the chat so I can see it, and you can in the chat room you can write, and that both Leticia and myself will receive the messages, and we'll be able to hopefully answer some of your questions. And during the webinar, you're also welcome to share your LinkedIn profile, the link to your LinkedIn profile, and then we'll ask Leticia to review a little bit what she sees in that page, and what improvements you might do, and so on. So Leticia, again,
Yeah.
welcome, and please introduce yourself. That's the best. It's much better than if I try to introduce you.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be here. I'm very grateful that you invited me and that I have the chance to help a few people, maybe with their job search. If you're looking for something in particular and you want to share your LinkedIn, what I would ask is that you please also mention what kind of job you're looking for, what kind of job you would like to get, because that will also affect how you want to present to people. So I've been a recruiter for about 3 years. I love doing recruiting because I think that at the end of the day, if I do my job right, someone has a great job to start, or maybe a pay upgrade from their previous job, which always makes me happy when someone is starting something new and they are excited about the new prospects for their family and their lives. I do try my best to make it a fit both for the person being hired and the company. And different companies have different requirements. But there's some general pointers that I think are useful for most candidates. So I'm hopeful that I will be able to help you. So I'm very happy to answer any questions.
So let me ask questions now. But we are actually really waiting for all the guests who can to ask questions, because that's going to be much more interesting probably than what I can ask. But please tell me a little bit about the company you're working for. I understand that is it primarily for remote workers, or who's it for? And just tell me. And by the way, if you would like to share your screen, I think I managed to enable it, so you'll be able to share the screen. Just make sure that you share the right part of the screen, not maybe something that you wouldn't want.
Just give me a second so that I can open what I would like to share.
Okay. I mean, in the meantime, I'll just tell all the people who are listening that any issues you might have, so you can't hear the voice or anything. So technical issues, just be also write in the chat. And again, if you have any questions, if you would like to offer your LinkedIn profile for review, that's a good chance, I think. So in previous events I managed, that was a really interesting part. Right, back to you, Leticia. So we can see now the web page of your company, right?
Yeah, this is the company that I currently work for. This job is an agency that is specialized in remote work. The company has been working for about 10 years, completely distributed. We specialize in having finding people jobs that are fully remote and fully flexible. So what I mean by this is that we care a lot about giving all the people that are placed through our company the same level of stability and the same level of benefits, no matter who the client is. Some companies don't offer any benefits for contractors remotely from other countries, basically because the international law about contractors right now doesn't require it, where employees within a country usually have their own specialized benefits that are non-negotiable. Depending on the country, that will vary. Since we work globally and we usually have distributed teams around the world, in my company, for example, we have about 80 people placed with clients currently working ongoing and stably. We've been super lucky that these people have been able to keep their jobs and keep their stability and their benefits, and also their salary level throughout this pandemic. So we've been very lucky that no one has been let go and we haven't had to shrink down. We're actually expecting to grow by the end of the year, and we've been hiring some people. So in our page, you can find here in our jobs that we do have some openings right now, and um, you can also see that there's different kinds of jobs that we usually post. So we have mostly jobs in the IT industry. Most of them are for developers, software developers, and different tech stacks. We do have other positions like this CTO position that is currently open, and also other assortment of support positions within the IT company. So the IT companies sometimes require other positions for them. Like we have a virtual assistant. This is for us directly. We also have like a digital designer, web scraper, WordPress developer, a senior C# developer, and we opening vacancies all the time. Mhm.
Okay, thanks. So okay, so let's say someone. So okay, so what is your part or your personal part or your company's part in the whole recruitment process? I guess that at the end, there the client, your client, will also interview the person, or maybe that's the majority of the time. But what is your added value? I mean, in general, the whole company, um, to this process, and what is the process of recruiting? How would yeah? Okay, that's enough of questions.
Yeah. So the recruitment process will depend.
You can stop sharing. Maybe that's then we can, if you don't want to show anything. Yeah, thanks.
Great. So the recruiting process will vary depending on the company. Us as a recruiting firm, what we do is we usually give advice to clients and we try to get to the core of what they need. A lot of people, they when they have companies, they are not exactly clear about what they need for their team, and sometimes they tend to merge different positions into so that they only see the general needs and they know they want someone, but sometimes they're like, okay, we want a DevOps person that also programs in PHP and does web design, and then we usually guide them a little bit into like maybe this is 3 people that you need because those are not skills that usually people learn together. There's some multifaceted people out there. People usually call those people that are specialized in very different areas and have a lot of experience in, like, for example, both front end web development and web design, graphic design, unicorns, because usually it requires a lot of effort to be able to be specialized in more than one thing. So we try to advise our clients into what is realistic, what the price range is in the industry, and what we will be able to provide in terms of like what the best candidate might be for them. So some clients have specific requirements and specific things, and once we know what the client needs and wants, then we usually create a checklist of things that are priorities for the client, so that we won't send anyone without those basic requirements for the position. And then things that we might be a little bit more flexible on that are good to have. So the perfect person will, for example, have a lot of experience with Azure, but maybe it's not a very set in stone requirement. And in the job post, you will usually see in the beginning of the list the things that are in the requirements in any job post. You usually will see first the things that are more important to whoever is hiring. They usually put them right at the top. So, for example, if someone put must have a degree um, in software engineering degree to apply for this vacancy, then it might be because the CTO is very concerned about that. particularly. Most clients I've seen don't require that particular requirement. They
Yeah.
don't ask for a specific education. Most people don't really concern themselves with what your education was. They are more concerned with your experience and what you are willing to offer to the company and what your skills are. It's just a little bit hard to tell because we have very little time to evaluate what your experience is, who you are, and present it to the client. So we try to make it as little bit of time as possible so that we don't go into one of those, you know, 10 interview long, it took 6 months processes that also includes like a test that you take home and it takes you days
do,
to
do
complete.
you test your clients, the
Our
the people
clients,
who, so I know that the client, I mean, I guess the client, your clients are the companies, so, and the people you recruit, so do you test them?
we usually don't do technical tests unless the client is really strict about that in
Hmm.
order to hire someone. And if they are strict about doing a code test challenge or a take home test, we usually require that the test is not very long because if it's an unpaid task, we don't want it to be a lot of work. So that's
Right.
how that we do as us. We also verify information with the clients. We advise them about the best ways to go about it. And we have a network of people already that we usually use to leverage our reach. What this means is that, for example, when I connect with you on LinkedIn, LinkedIn allows me to send you messages, for example, if I have vacancies, but it also allows for me to be able to reach more people that you may know,
Yeah.
send them messages and tell them, hey, I have this job. So what we usually do is we verify that we look for people that have the specific skills that we already determined, and we will approach people, and we will promote our vacancies in many places. So you will find our jobs in job boards or in LinkedIn, and you will occasionally also find it in our recruiters LinkedIn's. So you will see just posted on LinkedIn's saying, "Hey, I have this new role. Whoever is interested, or if you know someone." It's always good to see those messages if you're looking for a job because sometimes we might not have approached you directly because in the search engine it's not perfect. If you didn't have a keyword, a particular keyword written the same way I was looking for it, or if you didn't have this particular skill that you do have posted on your LinkedIn, then I won't be able to find you.
So that's actually the question is, how much, um, so compared to the number of people who contact you or the company, and versus people you start to contact, so you look for in on LinkedIn, let's say, or some other place. So how many people do you, how often do you look up people,
Well,
look for people? That's
I look for people every day, and our team looks for people every day. That's basically our job is to get these requirements and constantly be looking for people. So, for example, if we have a requirement for a senior developer, I will ignore any profiles that have 1 or 2 years of experience and not no more, because they will be considered juniors.
would you want, I mean, I didn't ask it up front, so if you're not comfortable with this, that's okay, but I would love to see how you do this. So if you can pick
Mhm.
up one of the jobs that that you need to look and search for it, and maybe we can see how you do it and what kind of things you consider.
Mhm.
Is it
Well, I
okay?
can do what I can do is share my on my LinkedIn, and we can go. I don't think I can show you the entire process of
Okay.
what I do because that would be covered by my NDA.
Okay, sure. Of course, that I
But
can
I
understand
can,
it.
but I think I can share you. I can show. I can open, for example, your LinkedIn,
Right.
um, and
You can just
then
tell me
see what I.
how bad it is, or why I don't fit, or how could I improve to be seen as more fit into one of the jobs.
Yeah. So the LinkedIn has several services. For example, they offer a basic search engine here, but if you don't have the sales navigator or recruiter LinkedIn, it won't let you find anybody that you don't already have contact with, and it won't let you send messages to people you don't know. So in that sense, it's kind of hard because you have to know who you're looking for unless you have that extra service. So we leverage a little bit of that and also a lot of experience. A lot of I'm usually a curious person and I Google anything I don't know. So for example, the first thing I see is that you've put here that you've worked with test automation, DevOps, and as a consultant. So if I'm looking for a DevOps person, then this is already good. This button here is just to add to our applicant tracking system so that I don't forget that I already, you know, got in
Yeah.
touch with you, and
Okay.
that if you answer, I know who I'm talking to and what the job is about. So you have a public GitHub, which I can open that. And I can see, for example, oh, you have a lot of contributions on GitHub. It looks like a nice green field, and it doesn't look auto-generated. Some people use some code snippets to auto-generate
Wow.
when things are published, and then it will have little drawings here, for example,
Hmm.
and that doesn't mean that they are actively publishing, but that they have like some code there and they're like upping it at certain times so that this says, for example, and stuff like that. So it's a different ways that people use it. So I would usually go to your repos and try to see what are your source codes rather than the things that you have, uh, you know, been working with from other people, from other contributors. So
Okay.
what actually contributed in. So for example, I see that you contributed quite a bit on this code Maven.
Well, that's my side. So
Yeah, and I also see that I can view your email if I log in. I haven't logged into to GitHub right now, though I do have a GitHub. Um, and I know some basics about programming. So what I will usually do is review that I have the specifics I want. So for example, for a DevOps role, I would be like, oh, great, you have Amazon Web Services, Elasticsearch. I'm guessing that you probably have done Python, and I saw Perl in your GitHub also. So I would be like, oh, great. So how many years of experience do you have? Oh, okay. So for your website here, that's 20 years. That's a lot of experience, and I would be very happy with that. And I can see, oh, Jenkins, Docker, that's good things. Test automation, and I can be like, okay, but out of those 20 years, how many years does this person have actually worked with, for example, Jenkins? Or if the client
how
is
could you
particular.
did? How could you know that?
Well, what I would do right now is I would just send you a message.
Ah, okay.
So send you a message. I would have a message that basically says, "Hey, I have this particular position as a DevOps engineer. Are you interested? And if you're not, would you add me to your network so that in the future I can share future job posts?" Most people will either add me to the network or tell me, "No, thank you," or "Yeah, I'm interested." There's
Hmm.
some people that never answer because they never use LinkedIn or because they're not really not interested in talking to me at all. And I understand a lot of people don't like recruiters. We do have access to more job posts than someone working for an individual company. So in that sense, it is easier for us to say, okay, maybe right now it didn't work. So what I would do is do that. Once you would get back to me and you say, hey, I am interested, the first thing I would do is send you the job post so that you can see the requirements and you can tell me, oh yeah, that does look like something I could do. Or you know what, I read this particular thing that this client wants. For example, the infrastructure and DevOps engineer that we have right now requires Eastern time zone work, for example. And you can be like, hey, I really don't want to work in Eastern time zone. So
Okay.
that
Sure.
for me. But if you would like that, then the next thing I would ask is for you to send me your CV. And
So
then
you need a separate CV.
yeah, and then what I would do is double check the information I already saw on your LinkedIn or your CV, because not everybody fills their LinkedIn
Right.
like completely. And you have a lot of information. I've seen some LinkedIn's that have no information. Regretfully, I can't evaluate anything, and I can't approach them and say, hey, maybe this job is for you. Basically because I can't see anything. What then? Usually, what happens is I would schedule an interview, or if someone else found you and I'm the recruiter for the position, they will get in touch with me and they will tell me, "Letty, please take a look," and then I will decide to schedule. Usually, I send an auto schedule with Calendly because I don't like the back and forward of having people wait until like they tell me, hey, I have 10 a.m. And then they go, oh, no, I don't have 10 a.m. I have 11 and 1 and 3. And then I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, I
sure.
don't. And then you go back and forth with emails and it takes a long time. And that means that the process goes longer. And the longer the process is going, the more time the candidate is investing in this.
Yeah.
And they're sure they're going to get the job. So we're trying to minimize it as much as possible. And then I do an interview. Usually, the initial interview is to check those things that I told you I couldn't tell from your LinkedIn or your CV. And then I will be like, okay, get to know you, see how you communicate. It's very important for us that you will be able to communicate clearly with the client, that you seem responsible, that when you joined the first call, you were on time and you didn't show up without a shirt, and that
Okay.
so that when we send you forward to the client and they see you on the paper, they're gonna say, "Oh, great, 20 years of experience. That's awesome." And then when they meet you, if you show up without a T-shirt 20 minutes late, they're not gonna want to hire you. So I'm evaluating those things, like how is the client gonna perceive you?
Hmm.
Go into an interview with you, and also like how easy is it to talk to you if you're nervous, and that's might be why you didn't communicate well. Usually the hardest candidates to place are those that have applied for a vacancy speaking a language that they don't really know well. So if it requires an English speaker and your English is really not good, then people are not going to be able to talk to this person in the daily basis. So I would suggest applying for something that you feel comfortable talking in. There's some shy people that they don't like talking that much, but then I can tell through asking them some questions that they just answer shortly, or that they're not interested in making much of a conversation. But it's still not a problem because most people don't expect developers to be chatty or outgoing or you
Right.
know conversational. They just expect to be able to work with you. So there's a difference between being completely unable to talk to a person and get any information out of them, and this person being shy and maybe not talking that much but still answering questions and still being polite, still presenting well. That always helps a lot. And I always double check with, we have a list and of the requirements, double check everything, explain the position, explain the process, what to expect on the next stages. Like I told you, that depends on the client, and in any hiring company, they will have different processes. So for example, Google used to have this like entire super long process that ended in people being traumatized for a while. And they are trying to go move away from that, and there's been some books on how recruiting has changed over the years. And I think one of the things is that the most experienced recruiters know that if you just torture your candidates, you don't get anywhere. There
Yeah.
really is no added benefit to putting someone through a 20-hour code challenge test of specific theoretical subjects that they haven't seen since university, when they're not going to use them at work.
Right.
But if you have something in particular, like for example, some teams care a lot about doing unit testing and about having their code really clean. So they want to see how you present your code, that it's separated into small files, that it's not, gigantic ifs nested between each other, that is documented, that it has a testing suite. And most experienced developers don't have these bad practices anymore. And it's very rare to find someone with a lot of years of experience that still has some of those things. But some clients, they get queasy and they're like, okay, we already hired someone that like made a mess out of our testing suite. So we want to do a little test about how they make testing for this particular case and see
Right.
that code. Since you have a public GitHub and it has public code, then sometimes what we will do is be like, hey, is this enough? This public code that they already have, can you check and evaluate from there?
Okay.
So not always will people actually get a code challenge test, but they will always, or most likely will always have a technical interview.
Mm.
So that means another developer will interview you and ask you technical questions.
So
Usually.
actually, the GitHub that I had the GitHub link in my LinkedIn profile, that was
Mhm.
actually the result of a previous interview. So I had this interview that we have now is the first one that I have in English, but I did a couple of them already in Hebrew, and
Awesome.
actually in one of them I saw someone having the LinkedIn profile in so the uh, GitHub
Okay.
profile, the link to the GitHub profile in their LinkedIn profile, and so I added as well. And I was
Mhm.
wondering actually because earlier I I think it's very important to have work in open source projects, but
Mhm.
I haven't actually encountered companies saying that. And I'm glad that you actually checked that, and it was important for you.
Yeah, I don't reject anybody that doesn't have it because I also know some developers are working for companies that are very mentally demanding. And to ask them to do on their free time any code to put on their GitHub is really unfair of them. Some people are working, like, for example, with a lot of microservices and in a very demanding consulting firm that has 20 projects. And, they're the DevOps
Mhm.
team for 20 projects. And I'm betting they get home and they just want to play some PlayStation or make dinner for their family or play with their dog. And they don't want to be coding another 2 hours or something to put something in their GitHub. So I understand when people don't have any public code. And I usually don't reject people. I've seen articles online about what you should do to like not get rejected. And they put things like make sure that your CV has all the grammar perfect. And it's like, I don't check.
Right.
None of the clients check. And if I'm going to send you to a client, and I see that you have some grammatical errors, what I will do is just like ask you to put your CV through Grammarly,
Hmm.
or ask you if I can make some small modifications. So, like,
Right.
for example, just to make JavaScript the same format, capital J script with the capital
Yeah.
S, you
Right.
know, so that it looks uniform and it looks good. But that's not the most important part. The most important part is that you can do the job. And many people present themselves in many different ways. So I believe that it's kind of a new move to be like, oh, this CV doesn't look pretty. It doesn't have the grammar. I don't see any public code, so I'm just gonna reject that person with 20 years of experience. For
Right.
those things, you could be losing on someone really good. But the thing is that these things do make it easier for people with less experience than me to see that you are the kind of developer that they want. And I know companies that care a lot about being able to see public code. Um, I used to work for stack builders, for example, and to them it matters a lot. If they see something in your profile,
Yeah.
then public code will matter to them.
Do you
But
check link? Sorry. Uh, do you search for the name of the person and look up if they have a Twitter account or Facebook or
I will do that if I don't find enough things on your personal page on your LinkedIn.
Mhm.
So for example, if this is if it just says, sometimes it just says trainer, consultant, author, this, and how many years, and it doesn't have any description in it. So like if you don't have any description in your kind of like your experience, so you said I worked 3 years for this company and you didn't put anything in it, then I can be like, okay, you worked as DevOps for 3 years, but I don't know what tools you used. I don't know what strengths you have. Then, and if I don't have many candidates, because I have very little time per person, because I want to go through quite a few people per day to be able to have enough candidates in my pipeline to send someone to the client in as soon as possible, then I will go look for Twitter or look for Facebook. I will sometimes post our jobs in Facebook groups, in LinkedIn groups, and in Twitter. So in my Twitter, you will often see that I have reshared some of our tweets from the company, or that I have been following a lot of developers, or that I've went in and commented on something particular, a thread about a particular technical subject. That's because I'm looking for people, and on LinkedIn, I didn't find a lot of people with the specific descriptions, because not everybody has a LinkedIn, and not every in the same way. It's just that if I have a great pool of people on LinkedIn, it will be kind of the lowest hanging fruit. It will be the
Right.
easiest for me to see, because in LinkedIn, people put forward their personal work information.
Right.
Look,
That's
you
for
put a picture of your pet.
right.
It might be cute, but I might not be interested in seeing your pet. I'm interested in seeing your job experience. So
Right.
this is only like one of the only public forums where I can actually see that. Though there are some communities, like I told you, for specific things. Like a while ago, I was looking for someone with experience in Elementor, and there's a few communities where like you can actually see that people are talking about Elementor and how to use it, and they will also have a place where people can have their profiles and where you can post jobs specifically about Elementor.
Okay.
Some communities in the development industry will have this, and I
Okay.
will do that. Mhm.
Interesting. Okay. So if I understand more or less, in order to stand out or to make to raise my chances of getting invited to an interview, I better put all the buzzwords or all the words that describe the technologies that I have experience with
Mhm.
um, in
Yeah,
my
like the
LinkedIn profile.
keywords, like if you know how to like promote your web page with SEO, and you like that your web page, the more a word is used, it goes through the search engine easier. The same thing will happen with your LinkedIn. So the
Right.
more times you have Amazon Web Services everywhere, and the different ways that you put it, like you put AWS capitalized, you put AWS in lower letters, you put Amazon Web Services written down, then there's more chances that people who are looking through their search, that they're gonna find your profile.
But that might help the search engine itself, but won't it be
Mhm.
actually confusing to you, or like messy, that seeing or the
And
same seeing all over the place?
if you do it in the same sentence, yes. But LinkedIn has different areas. Let me show you. Let me share my screen
Okay.
again. So for example, here you have, this is perfect. So you wanna keep it consistent within the same paragraph, within the same job. But on the next job, you could put in the description the same skills, and it could be written a little bit different. But you can also put here in the skills and endorsements, because it hides it under here. You can put as many things as you want. And, even if you have something that's irrelevant for the job in this area, it won't matter.
Okay.
It won't matter because it won't look bad. Here, because this is kind of a paragraph to read. But over here, you just want to flag anyone who's looking for those things. So you, for example, you have testers in development here, but you also have testing here.
Right. Yeah. I don't. I
And
don't.
I know this is,
I'm not even sure that I edit them. Other people also can give me these upvotes for certain keywords.
Yeah, when you put a keyword here, for example, and you are my contact, I can say, oh, I know Gabor is good at JSON because I used to send you a JSON and
Yeah.
when we used to work for the same company. So and then you will have this number here, and that means
Right.
that someone is looking for someone that oh, you have testing actually three times because you have testing, and test driven development. You see,
Yeah.
and it won't look bad because this is exactly for that. This is your keywords
Right.
for
Okay.
your Mhm. And you put it there, and you also have recommendations here.
That's actually a good question here. How
Mhm.
much do you how much how important are these recommendations to you?
If I see someone that, for example, has a gap in the middle of their work history, or they have something weird going on that I have seen, then I will. This will help. Like for example, like it was great working with this person, and it's just from the company that they were like just less than a year in, and I'm like, okay, so they were doing a good job, and now they quit for a better salary, or maybe they got sick, or a family member got sick, and you never know. So it helps in that area. But if you have the experience and you don't have the recommendations, I will also consider the profile. Like I told you, I don't want to reject people. What I would say is that getting a job, in my experience, is a little bit about statistics.
Right.
So you have to give yourself the best chance possible in terms of applying to as many things that you consider interesting, um, sending messages maybe to recruiters that work in the industry that you want to get a job in, so that if they have something, they let you know, um, or making sure that in general you are not applying only to one place, because if you have all your eggs in one basket and that basket happened to have a friend that they wanted to hire rather than continue with the process, then you might not get a job, and it might have nothing to do with you being the perfect candidate or not.
Right.
It's a because this is about people, and people want to work with people that they like. So sometimes people will do this in companies where they want to hire someone, basically because they're the friend. Our
Right.
clients, they come to us because they want to hire the best. They want to hire someone that has all those skills, and sometimes they're looking for something very particular. So, for example, you know how hard it is to find someone that still does Perl nowadays
Yeah.
and wants to work with Perl right now. Or, for example, if you're looking for a Haskell developer or a functional programming developer, it will be harder. Or if there's a particular requirement for this job that they haven't been able to fill, they will bring in a recruiter, and we'll look for people actively and intensely until we find someone similar. Because, you know, there's billions of people in this planet. Someone has, most likely someone has that experience. And then the next thing is, once we find that someone with that experience, is the client able to pay what that person is worth? So if they want a unicorn that knows everything, that person most likely knows that that means that their not their skills are not so common. Their combination of skills are not so common,
Yeah.
and they can ask a little bit more in terms of salary.
Uh,
Mhm.
Great. So thank you very much for coming on this webinar. I ran out of questions, so if you have any more things that I didn't ask and you would have asked yourself, or just want to say something, please do so. And my and or our guests or the participants, please, if you have, I'm looking up because I have the list there. So. Uh, it's your last chance now to send in your LinkedIn profile or to ask any questions you may have, and so do it now, and then we might be able to review a couple of profiles. If so, back to you. If anything else that we have missed that you wanted to say.
Well, what I wanted to say is that in general, if you're looking for a job and maybe right now you don't want to have the profile reviewed, I'm happy to answer any questions on my personal LinkedIn. So send me a connection request. I usually accept most connection requests, and I'm happy to help you find a job. We are opening vacancies all the time, and I'm very grateful that I got to talk to you today, Gabor, and that there's some people here um, to listen to me. So,
Okay.
so much.
So thank you very much again. I don't see any questions coming in, and I hope that it's not that I'm missing it somewhere. So I don't see any questions coming in. So I think we can wrap this up now. I will share the profiling of Leticia under the video and on the place where I'm going to post this on the Code Maven website. So you will
Mhm.
be able to connect with her. Actually, one thing that when people connect, I really like when people actually write a few sentences that why are they connecting to me and not just sending me a connect request, because I mean
Who's
my
this?
memory, because it gives me some
Mhm.
context of do I know that person and or not, or why are we going to be connected. So
Mhm.
I would recommend that. Even if it's just like I'm looking for a job, or I've seen you on this video and so on, whatever, and
Mhm.
that's how. But I think that's a useful thing. So again, thank you very much, and thank you
Thank you.
everyone who came listening to this live webinar, and also thank you everyone who watches this as the YouTube and as a video on YouTube. So bye bye.
Thank you so much.